Hello! This is going to be a mindset video on how to best have the right kind of winning mindset to get a CSM role. And I'm going to real quickly kind of go through my journey so that I can kind of tap back into that energy of what it was like when I really wanted to get a role as a CSM. Before I wanted to become a CSM, my job experience was the Army and working in the oil field. I had no business or experience in the online space or any of this kind of stuff. I literally only knew how to shoot guns and turn wrenches, right? So I had no business, but I really wanted to become a coach. Okay, I had this passion, mostly because listening to motivational speakers had helped me through some really tough times. So I wanted to become a coach. That was my goal. And then whenever I tried to join these coaching programs to learn how to start a coaching business, they were all like $10,000, right? And I didn't have $10,000 back then. So I had the bright idea, I don't have $10,000. I want to be a coach. Maybe I can go and work for one of these companies, right? So I applied to a whole bunch of them. And the first guy that actually gave me a shot was this guy right here. His name's Tanner Chittister with Elite CEOs. And I'm just going to be completely honest with you guys. I lied my ass off. I really just wanted to work with him so badly that I went completely above and beyond. I studied all night. I read books on how to build coaching businesses and how to become an asset. I applied multiple times. I reached out to multiple people inside the company saying I wanted to work for them to be a CSM. And what happened was he gave me a shot. We basically got the interview. They liked me. It made sense. But then what happened is Tanner owns a company that teaches people how to be coaches, right? So he'll teach you how to start a coaching business online or start any kind of online business. And what happened is basically I worked with him as a part-time to get my feet in the door. And then one of my clients was Hamza Ibrahim, this guy. And what happened is I was working with this guy and his business absolutely blew up. Okay, so it was me, him, and Paul. Paul was the other guy, and Paul was on TikTok, and Paul went viral on TikTok. So then what had happened is, at this time, I got this part-time job with Tanner, and I was working with this guy, and basically he needed help, right? Because his business literally went from nothing to booked calls like crazy. So I started doing booked calls for him. We ended up doing multiple months where we made over $1 million a month, all because Paul went viral on TikTok. So it was me doing the sales. Hamza was inside of Tanner's program. Paul was going viral on TikToks, and we built this business called the Real Estate Empire Builders. And it was an incredible journey, but what happened is I basically did so many sales for the company that everybody that I closed started calling me. So then I kind of naturally became the CSM for the company because they all had my number and they wanted results. And then I was the coach, and then I had sold them into the program. So I kind of got absorbed into this company. And it was amazing. We made tons of money. I learned so much going through that massive growth, right? That's not traditional business, by the way. Not everybody goes viral. It was a very once-in-a-lifetime kind of deal. And we grew this business into a massive multi-million-dollar coaching business. And then sadly, Paul died in a car accident, and the whole company kind of fell apart. So that was my first experience, but I really wanted to be a coach, so I tried to apply with Tanner Chittister, and I got a little crazy. I got into his business. Because I was in that business, I got absorbed by this other business that was really making big moves, and then I found myself without a job again, and I had to start over. So next step, I really wanted to learn marketing, okay? And you'll kind of catch a theme here, but I really wanted to learn how to do marketing. I wanted to learn how to scale businesses and make more money because we went viral, so I thought, all traffic, I'll figure out ads, I'll get traffic for stuff that I want to build. So I applied to this company called AdLig. I really wanted to work with them. They basically do YouTube ads. And what happened is I made it to the second round of interviews, and I had no idea how to run YouTube ads. I bought every single course that I could possibly afford at the time, and I stayed up for 2 or 3 days straight learning as much as I could about YouTube ads. I finally made it to the final round, and the business owner called me out and said, "Have you ever even ran YouTube ads before?" And I said, "I learned really, really fast." And he kind of laughed, and he kind of brought me in, and he said, "Okay, well, you're going to have to learn how to run YouTube ads, but first you're just going to have to help us manage these clients and stuff like that. So he hired me, and I became a full-time CSM with AdLeg, and we would help people shoot good videos. We would help people make these ads. We would set up Google ads for them. We would do YouTube, and it was a really cool company to work with. He was a great guy, and I worked there for a good amount of time, and then I got an offer to work with one of my heroes, which was Frank Kern, and he had an agency at the time, right? So I left this job to go work with Frank Kern because we were actually doing Frank Kern's ads, and I met his media buyer, and we hit it off, and we were buddies, and I basically got an opportunity to work with one of my heroes in the space. This is the GOAT. I don't know if you've never heard of him. You're living under a rock. But we were with him, and then he partnered up with Grant Cardone, and we were working at this agency, and we were running all these different ad campaigns and dealing with these really crazy clients and traveling all over the place. And it was a very intense time to, try and keep up with the pace and the level and the A players. And then sadly, Frank Kern and Grant Cardone's agency, they split ways, and the agency dissolved, and I found myself without a job again. And then I really wanted to start my own business, so I started a couple of my own businesses, and they failed fantastically. So then I had to get another role as a CSM to get back on my feet, and I basically reached out to Scaling with Systems, and this is really where I learned how to become a CSM. This is where I really made a lot of money as a CSM. I made a lot of money at all these different jobs, right? But I always kind of felt like I was just I was running full speed, and I never really got a hold of what I was doing until I finally ended up at Scaling with Systems. When I was at Scaling with Systems, Ravi is an amazing business owner. I learned everything about setting up funnels, managing multiple, high-ticket clients, scaling different businesses, how to be a CSM. We had a CSM manager. We had a team of the CSMs, and it was a really cool environment to work in. It really, pushed me to become the best CSM that I possibly could. And then, after this, I started another one of my businesses, and we started Client Success Club. Okay, so that was my full journey of how I went all the way through and up the ranks of the CSM world. Okay, so I just wanted to go through that to give you a bit of background. You can listen to what I'm telling you because this is what I had to do personally to make a lot of money and become a high-paid CSM and work remotely. Okay, so let's wash away my story. Let's focus on you so that I can help you land an amazing CSM role. Okay, so the first thing that we learned about my story and what you need to do is you have to really want the job. Okay, no BS. You have to really want to get a job, because as soon as you flip that switch, and I know you have it in you, as soon as you really, really want it, you can do anything you put your mind to, and I promise you that. I've talked to lots of people that say, oh, there's just no jobs out there, and it's like, no, you can get a job anytime you want. You just have to actually flip that switch and put your mind to it. Okay, so you have to really want a CSM job, and you have to be obsessed with it, and you have to get a little crazy. Okay, and again, in order for me to get the job, my first CSM role with Tanner, I had to fill out applications. I had to reach out to every single member of his team. I sent him a personal message on Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook. I would comment on his ads. I got weird with it because I wanted the job so badly, and I was so pissed that I didn't have $10,000 to buy his damn program. So I was so determined that I was going to get into his program one way or another that I went out of my way to learn everything I could about the company, and I reached out to everybody, and I got the job. Okay, all right, I got a shot. Right, the point is I got a little crazy, and that's okay. All right, but I also first flipped the switch and said, I'm going to get one of these jobs with this guy. Next thing that you have to do is you have to be confident. Confidence is the biggest thing of why people hire me. Again, I was in the Army in the oil field. I had no business trying to get into the online space, okay? But I was willing to learn, and I really thought that I was the right person to do the job. Okay, because I had blind confidence. If you don't have confidence, start with little stuff. Start with, you're really good at Call of Duty. Start with, you're really good at gardening. Okay, build your confidence up level by level by level, and then just put on that character of uber confidence before you hop on these calls. Okay, not to the point where it's gross, but to the point where it makes sense. But you have to be confident. Okay, if you're weak, if you're quiet, if you're shy, you better have some sort of crazy secret skills, because most people aren't going to hire that person. Most people are going to hire the confident person that is exciting to be around, that's interested. Okay, even if that's not, if you're very introverted, it's okay that you put on a little bit of a spice on it, all right? Drink an extra coffee that morning or something, but have the confidence of a 3-year-old in a Batman suit, all right? And then you'll get the job. And you have to really think that you can do the job and that you are the right person for the job, or they're not going to hire you. Next is you have to be proactive, okay? I can't tell you guys, I get people these amazing interviews with the CEOs of the company, and then the CEO says, yeah, I don't know, that guy just never followed up with me. And it's just like, what? Like, I get you your life-changing job, and you're too fucking busy to send a follow-up email and finalize the deal or show up to the interview. So you have to be proactive. Okay, so as much as you join this program and you're leaning on our Rolodex of people inside the space, you have to be proactive because it's your life, all right? As much as I want to help you, no one is going to help you more than yourself. So you have to be very proactive. And when I say proactive, you have to be reaching out to business owners and business opportunities all the time. Because remember, we got to get a little crazy to get the job. So be proactive. There's multiple things to be proactive. Proactive on reaching out to business owners for jobs. Proactive once you actually get an interview. Proactive before you get the interview, studying their business, studying what their offer is, studying like what a high level CSM for this company does. And then there's proactivity once you talk to the business owner, following up with them, figuring out the next steps, all of that stuff. It's better to be proactive than reactive. Okay, reactive people are always blaming life for circumstances. Proactive people are going out and making things happen. Next one is adaptable. You have to be adaptable. Again, I had no business getting most of these jobs, just totally being honest. I was available. I wanted it really badly. I was confident. I was proactive. And whatever they basically would say, I would say, I can do that for you. Let me know where do I need to clock in. You tell me to jump. How high do I need to jump? And I will be very adaptable. Okay. Now you may have, kids, or you might have some other job that you're trying to be around, but be adaptable to a point where if they need you to learn something, you're going to learn that skill. If they need you to show up and you can make it work, you're going to show up and do that work. Okay. So being adaptable is very important because again, you are looking to work in their company. Okay. And in order for you to work in their company, you have to adapt to that new role and that new environment. And you have to be okay with it. You have to embrace the chaos a little bit, and you have to be adaptable. The other thing of being adaptable is you just got to be ready for anything and everything. And so now we're going to kind of go into how to get the interviews. Okay, once you're on the interview with these people, I always think being memorable is very important. So you want to think about that before you hop on the interviews because I've interviewed so many people. I don't remember any of them except for the ones that I hired. Like I don't remember any of them. So the truth is you have to be memorable. You have to have a story. You only have like 5 minutes with these people. These people are super busy, multimillionaires, and they're giving you 5 minutes. In that 5 minutes, you have to think about what's something I can be memorable with this person, right? I always try to think of like something that I like, that we have in common. Just try and think of things that you can connect on and is important, okay? And being memorable is that you're going to stand out in the eye of the business owner. And then you have to remember this too. Why you want the role is different than why you deserve this role. Okay, but these are two very important things. You want the role because it will give you high income and remote living. Why you deserve the role is because you have been working hard your entire life and you are going to be the most loyal, the most available, the most proactive CSM that has ever happened. That you deserve to have an amazing job because you deserve a good life. You deserve it because you're a hard worker. You're a good person. You love yourself enough to take this serious and be excited about this opportunity and do whatever it needs to get done. The next thing is also learn from each interview. Okay, there were a couple CSM roles in between these ones where I sucked at the interview and I didn't know what I was doing. But for the most part, whenever I got to that interview point, I was there, right? But the biggest thing I learned from doing multiple interviews is proactive listening. Okay, so whenever the business owner or the person interviewing would ask you a question that's important to you, and I would listen to what they would say. Each interview that I did, I would take notes, and at the end of the interview, I would say, is there anything I could have done better on this interview, or is there anything else that you're looking for, right? Or if I didn't get the job, I would send them an email, and I would say, hey, I appreciated you giving me your time. What is it that made you choose somebody else as opposed to me? And usually they'll send you some nice little fluffy thing, but sometimes they'll give you some actual feedback so that your next round of interviews can be better. Dress the part, okay? Even if you're broke, go to Goodwill, get something nice. I'd rather you overdress than underdress, okay? The other thing is, don't be desperate. Desperate people aren't going to get hired. It's gross. Nobody wants to hire a desperate person, okay? So even if you've got no money, you're scraping pennies together, you're homeless, don't be desperate. Carry yourself with pride and act like you got $1 million in your pocket and you don't need the job. It's more of an attractive trait to be somebody who isn't desperate for a job, okay? Whenever I'm hiring a sales guy, if they're desperate, I know that that's right, they're going to lie to my leads because they're desperate to close the sale. You're desperate as a CSM, you're going to do weird stuff inside my business, and I don't want that. So don't be desperate. Even if you are desperate, try and put those desperate thoughts to the side and deal with them later. Don't bring them to the interview. Don't bring them to the job. And also just try not to be desperate. Be confident no matter what. Life isn't that bad. All right. Do your research on the company. Okay, this goes back to being proactive, but if there's a certain niche or there's certain people in your industry that you want to work with, do your research on those companies. Do your research on what the CSMs. Maybe just find the CSMs that work at that company and start talking to them on Instagram or Facebook or LinkedIn and learn about the company. Learn what this company is looking for. Learn what it's like to be a CSM. Do your research though. Okay, go above and beyond. I promise you, if you go that little extra mile, you will get the job. You will get more success. Be articulate. Okay, don't say and Okay, when you're on an interview, you want to sound sharp. Okay, so try and put yourself in that mindset before you go into the interview. I am going to be articulate in this interview. I'm going to say things very matter-of-factly. I'm not going to fumble around with my words. This could go back to also learn from each interview. So if you do an interview and you find yourself going don't do that. Be articulate, be straightforward, be honest. This goes back to kind of being memorable. Having stories is very important. All right, they're going to ask you the most boring interview questions because they don't know anything. They're going to be like, can you tell me a time where you showed great leadership in your previous role? And then if you come out with a good story that's actually entertaining, pulls them in, they're going to remember you a lot better. Okay, so before the interview, think of some stories, maybe write down, not the whole story, but just some like bullet points of what a couple stories you have that you can share. And there has to be a point to your story. Whenever I'm telling a story, my girlfriend makes fun of me, but I always write on a piece of paper, I say beginning, middle, and end. Okay, so you have the beginning of the story, the middle of the story, and then the end of the story. All right, you don't drag on forever, and your story has a purpose, and it's something that you are excited about, because if you're enthusiastic about it, they're going to be enthusiastic about it. But having stories prepped for your interview is really going to be helpful. Be early. I don't think I have to explain that. I mean, if I set you up with an amazing interview and you're late, I'm going to freak out. Prepare questions. Okay, prepare for the questions that they're going to ask you. Like I said, they're always going to ask you really weird questions on interviews. It's just part of the awkwardness. Embrace it. It is what it is. At the end of the interview, a lot of the times the business owner will be like, okay, do you have any questions for me? Now, it's almost always a red flag if you don't have any questions for them, because it just shows that you're not really engaged. You're kind of not really thinking about it. You're just kind of there in the moment, and maybe you're going to get hired, maybe you're not going to get hired. But I would rather you have questions prepared for the business owner. Okay, so these are a couple of the questions that get them engaged that I really like. Okay, number one, what does a high performer with your company look like? You can be like, hey, so I know you're going to interview a lot of people. I'm just curious, what does a high performer inside your company really look like? This is going to open up the stage for them to tell you exactly who they're looking for, and you can kind of use that as ammunition, maybe while you're still doing the interview with the people. What keeps you with this company? This is another great question, because this is going to get the person who's interviewing you to start talking about them. If you ever want someone to like you, have them talk about themselves to you. That's the secret to win friends and influence others, right? But basically, this is a great question. So the first question was, what does a high performer in your company look like? Great question, because that gets them talking about what high performers. Next question, what keeps you working with this company, right? What gets you excited about this company? What keeps you going in this? Because they could be working anywhere, so why are they with this company? And then they'll get to talk about themselves and their experience, blah, blah, blah. And then this is the most important one. What are the next steps? How do we move forward from here? This is the most important one. I don't care if you have you get an Instagram message from these people that says, hey, we're interested in interviewing you. Okay, great. What's the next steps? How do we move forward from here? Once you get on that first interview, you say, okay, great, everything looks good. So what are the next steps? How do we move forward from here? You think you'd be able to maybe get me an offer today so we can get this done? You take control of the next steps, okay? And if they say, oh, well, we're going to have to talk about it and we'll get back to you. And you say, okay, great. So the next steps are, you're going to talk about it. You're going to send me an email after today or tomorrow just deciding if you're going to hire me. Is that correct? Yes, that is what's going to happen. Okay, at least that way you're moving the ball forward. You should take control of your life, though, because this is what's going to benefit you. So I hope this was a good mindset check for where you're at to get a really good, high-paying CSM job. This was my no fluff, no BS thoughts on how to have the right mindset to get a great CSM job. All right, I look forward to talking to you in the next one.